Sometimes in professional sports or pretty much any sports league, it can be high school, college, CFL, NFL, you get the point. But sometimes in life, you're not always destined to be good for the team that selected you first. Sometimes, unfortunately, you have to end up going out of your way to leave that team and find success. For the players in today's video, they had to transfer to other colleges to finally find their footing, and in the end, some of these guys ended up being first round picks, or they regardless still managed to make it to the NFL one way or another. Today, we'll be going over some of the greatest redemption stories in college football history, and we're going to start off with a recent first round pick in the NFL draft in 2024, and that's Bo Nix. Coming out of Pinson Valley High School in Pinson, Alabama, Bo Nix was a four-star recruit, and in 2018, he passed for over 3,496 yards, 48 touchdowns, and over 300 rushing yards. As a result of his performance, he was given a Mr. Alabama Football Award in 2018. He had offers from Clemson, Florida, Cincinnati, Alabama, and Auburn, and on July 10, 2018, he would officially commit to the University of Auburn. A true freshman in 2019, Bo Nix would start 13 games, going 9-4 as a starter, passed over 3,542 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, will also rush over 300 yards on the ground and 7 touchdowns. During the shortened season in 2020, he played in 11 games, going 6-5, passed for 2,415 yards, 12 interceptions, and 7 touchdowns, with over 300 yards on the ground once again, and 7 touchdowns on the ground as well. However, 2021 would be a bit of an up and down season for Bo Nix. While he did have some signature wins against teams like LSU and Ole Miss, he also got benched for TJ Finley in a game against Georgia State. However, in a game against Mississippi State, he would suffer a broken ankle, and this of course put him out for the rest of the season. Before that, he played in 10 games, passed for 2,294 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, with over 100 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns. Then on December 12th of 2021, Bo announced that he would be entering the transfer portal. Nix would be later asked what led his decision to transfer from Auburn, and he said, "Last year, I was kind of over it. Each week it was something else. There was quite frankly nothing I could do about it. I just remember kind of being miserable. It wasn't fun anymore." So where would Bo Nix take his talents? He, of course, in 2022, took him to the University of Oregon. And his first season there was pretty good. He went 10-3, knocking off ranked teams like BYU, UCLA, and Utah. Then he went to the Holiday Bowl and knocked off North Carolina. Overall, he finished the year with 3,593 yards, 29 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and he also rushed the ball for over 500 yards and 14 touchdowns on the ground. However, 2023 would be the year where Bo Nix officially put his name on NFL scouts' radar. Nix and Oregon would get off to a 5-0 start to start the season before they finally lost to Washington. After that, they got right back on track and won 6 more games. This then led to the Pac-12 championship game where they would face off against a team that gave them their only L that season. Of course, it would be Washington. But once again, the Huskies got the better of the Ducks, and this would officially eliminate the Ducks from playoff contention. But Nix had an amazing year that year, passed for 4,508 yards, 45 touchdowns, and just 3 interceptions, along with 6 rushing touchdowns on the year. He finished third in Heisman voting behind Jayden Daniels, who would end up being the winner that year, and also Michael Penix. In his final game with the Oregon Ducks against Liberty in the Fiesta Bowl, he would break Mac Jones' record for the highest single-season completion percentage with 77.45%. He would also lead the NCAA in 2023 in pass completions, completion percentage, and passing touchdowns. Nix will be taken 12th overall by the Denver Broncos in the 2024 NFL Draft, being the 6th quarterback taken in the first round of that class. Nix went on to have a very good rookie year in 2024, playing in all 17 games, going 10-7 as a starter, passed for 3,700 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, with also 430 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns. While Bo Nix definitely had a redemption story, his draft mate might have had a more painful one, but in the end, it all worked out. Michael Penix Jr. was just a 3-star recruit coming out of high school in 2018 at Tampa Bay Technical High School in Dade City, Florida. In 2 seasons there, he passed for 4,243 yards, 61 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He had offers from Georgia State, FAU, Arizona, Florida State, and Indiana, and that is exactly where he committed to. As a true freshman in 2018, Penix played in 3 games, and he tore his ACL that season, and he got redshirted. Before that, he only threw for 219 yards and a touchdown. He will be named a starter in 2019, but once again due to injury, he only played in 6 games, passed for 1,394 yards and 10 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He would return to Indiana in 2020, but once again, he was ruled out for the rest of the season after suffering another torn ACL. This guy tore his ACL twice in 4 years. You would have to think after that, it's going to be hard to recover, right? For Penix, he didn't go down easily, and in 2022, he would commit to the University of Washington. For the first time in 5 years, Michael Penix played in the full season, playing in 13 games, going 11-2, passed for 4,641 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. He named Washington to an 11-2 record, and he was named AP Comeback Player of the Year. Then in 2023, he led Washington to an undefeated regular season record, including when he knocked off Oregon not once, but twice. They then knocked out Texas in the semifinals of the college football playoffs, before unfortunately falling to Michigan in the national championship game. Altogether in 2023, he had a 14-1 record, passed for 4,903 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, and he also finished second in Heisman voting. Penix ended up being a top 10 pick in the 2024 NFL Draft by the Atlanta Falcons. He didn't really do much that season, only passed for 700 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, but he is expected to be the full-time starter for the Falcons in 2025. Coming back from 2 ACL tears is not something you see in any football world or any sports world often nowadays, but Michael Penix, he did just that. But at least he didn't be disrespected on his way out of Indiana, unlike this next dude. Jayden Daniels was a 4-star recruit coming out of Calhoun High School in San Bernardino, California. He played in 53 games at Calhoun High School, where he had a total of 210 touchdowns and a total of 17,600 total yards. He would have 25 total college football offers before choosing to play at Arizona State and the Sun Devils. He was named a starter as a true freshman in 2019, where he played in 12 games, going 8-4 as a starter, passed for over 2,943 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, with also 300 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. He only played in 4 games in 2020 due to the shortened COVID season, but in 2021, he had a pretty rough year. He went 8-5 in 13 games, passed for 2,380 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, while also rushed for over 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. However, after this season, Arizona State was about to look a whole lot different, as several of the team's coaches was either fired or they resigned after violating a number of rules during the COVID-19 protocols. During the COVID-19 dead period, it was revealed that Arizona State was having in-person interviews with recruits, and obviously, this was prohibited during the dead period. It was also revealed that the staff members are paying for things like meals, apparel, airfare, lodging, entertainment. They were doing a lot that they shouldn't have been doing. There were key players involved in this: Antonio Pierce, the former assistant coach for Arizona State; Herm Edwards, the former Arizona State head coach; and also Regina Jackson, Jayden Daniels' mom. Jayden Daniels would enter the portal in 2022, and it wasn't because of this incident. It was really a lot of things. Jayden Daniels didn't think the system he played in Arizona State was going to help him, so he decided to dip out. And of course, he ended up at LSU. His first season at LSU? Not bad. Wasn't spectacular either, but it wasn't bad. Over 2,000 yards through the air, 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, over 800 yards on the ground, and 11 touchdowns. Pretty good. But it was his 2023 season that put him on NFL radar. He would go 9-3 as a starter in 2023, passing for over 3,812 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, while also adding on over 1,000 yards on the ground and 10 touchdowns. He even set an SEC record for his game against Georgia State, where he had a total of 8 touchdowns. He also set the FBS single season passer rating record that season as well. And due to his performance, he would end up being named the Heisman Trophy winner in 2023. He would finish his college career with over 16,000 total yards in 55 games, which is top 10 in FBS history. He will be drafted second overall by the Washington Commanders in the 2024 NFL Draft, and he went on to have an absolutely electric rookie year. 12-5 as a starter, over 3,568 yards through the air, 25 touchdowns, and over 800 yards on the ground and 6 touchdowns. He helped the Commanders knock off the Buccaneers in the wildcard round, beat the number 1 seed Lions in the divisional round, before unfortunately falling to the Super Bowl champion Eagles in the NFC Championship game. Honestly, the only thing I gotta ask now is, those people who trash his locker room, I wonder how they feel now. Jalen Hurts come a long way during his NFL career, and I think we can all agree with that, and it's crazy because in college, he went through some tough times. Coming out of the class of 2016 from Channelview, Texas, Jalen Hurts was a 4-star recruit, and we know where he committed to. We're just going to keep it short. He committed to Alabama. Now at first, when he came into the team, Blake Barnett was there, and it looked like he was going to be a starter. However, by the second game, true freshman Jalen Hurts became the starter for the team. He had an outstanding season in his freshman year. As a true freshman, by the way, passed for over 2,780 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, and also rushed for over 900 yards on the ground and 13 touchdowns. He broke Alabama's school record for single season rushing yards by a quarterback and also had 36 overall touchdowns, a record previously held by Blake Sims in 2014. He also became the first quarterback coached by Nick Saban to rush for more than 11 touchdowns in a single season. He led Alabama to an absolute blowout win over the Florida Gators in the SEC Championship game, and then in the college football playoffs, they will go against Clemson. A year before this, they beat Clemson, but it wasn't to be this year because in the final seconds of the game, Deshaun Watson caught Hunter Renfrow in the end zone for a touchdown to seal the national champion for Clemson. However, in 2017, things would go a lot different for Jalen Hurts. Hurts would lead Alabama to an 11-1 record, and their only loss came against Auburn in the Iron Bowl, because that's exactly how it goes usually with Alabama. Despite that loss, they still qualified for the college football playoffs, where in the semifinals they knocked out Clemson in the Sugar Bowl. And in that game, Hurts was named the offensive MVP. But in the national championship game against Georgia, things went a lot different. Going into halftime, Alabama was down 13-0, and Hurts wasn't really having a good game. He was 3 for 8, 21 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He really wasn't doing much of anything in this game, really. So what would Alabama do coming out of halftime? They would end up benching Jalen Hurts in favor of Tua Tagovailoa. In the biggest event in college football history, he was going to come in and take over for Jalen Hurts. And he did good because he ended up leading Alabama to a comeback victory in overtime to help the Crimson Tide capture the national champion. Now going into 2018, of course you had QB controversy when you have something like this happen, and Nick Saban was asked about it himself in the game against Louisville, and what did Nick Saban say? That iconic line that I love. In the end, Tua was named the starter, and Jalen Hurts was the backup. Jalen made 10 appearances in the regular season, having 7 touchdowns. He also came in the SEC Championship game for Tua, who got hurt, and led him to a 35-28 comeback victory over the Georgia Bulldogs. He wouldn't play again for Alabama that season, and on January 16, 2019, he announced he would be transferring to the University of Oklahoma. In his first game as a Sooner, he would end up shattering Baker Mayfield's record of 396 yards of total offense with 508 total yards of offense. He led Oklahoma to the Big 12 championship game where they ended up winning, and also a spot in the college football playoffs. Unfortunately, they would end up getting smoked by LSU, the eventual winners, by a score of 63-28. Altogether that season, he passed for over 3,851 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, and also rushed the ball for over 1,298 yards and 20 touchdowns. And this helped his draft stock out a lot. A lot of people thought he would be nothing more than a third, fourth round guy, kind of like what Jalen Milroe was this year if he kind of stayed at Alabama. But going to Oklahoma helped him out a lot. And he would be taken in the second round by the Philadelphia Eagles with the 53rd pick. Eagles fans at the time hated this because they had Carson Wentz, who wasn't a bad quarterback, and they were really confused by this move. But in the end, I don't think Eagles fans hate this move anymore. Carson Wentz performed poorly in 2023 to the point where he lost his job and Jalen Hurts took over. He had a pretty decent rookie year for a guy who only started 4 games, passing the ball for over 1,000, 61 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and over 300 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. He led the Eagles to the playoffs in 2021, but they ended up losing to the Buccaneers. But in 2022, it's where he officially broke out. Hurts will be an MVP runner-up in 2022 and also made his first Super Bowl appearance that year as well. Unfortunately, they fell to the Chiefs in a very close game. Even though they lost, he ended up outplaying Mahomes in that game. But again, they lost, so it really doesn't matter. He had over 3,700 yards through the air, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and also 700 yards on the ground and 13 touchdowns. He regressed a little in 2023, but in 2024, to keep it short, he would win his first Super Bowl, and he also won Super Bowl MVP in that game. So he went from a guy that was benched during his college football career, transferring to Oklahoma, having an outstanding year to improve his stock, and he got selected by a team, and he would end up being named the starter. And ironically enough, he's better than the guy that took his spot in college. Crazy how things can work sometimes. Stetson Bennett had to go the long way to get to where he was in college football, and it was a very long road. He wasn't a 5-star, 4-star, 3-star recruit, but he was a 2-star recruit. And his only offer from an FBS school came with Middle Tennessee State. Despite the fact he passed for over 3,724 yards and 40 touchdowns in total, he was about 5'9" for a quarterback, so obviously very light and undersized. He would instead walk on at Georgia in 2017, but he did not play a single snap that season, and after 5-star recruit Justin Fields committed to Georgia in 2018, he would decide to transfer to Jones College. He played in 12 games for Bob College, throwing for over 1,000 yards and 16 touchdowns. And he was just about to commit to Louisiana, no, not LSU, but the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. However, he would instead return to Georgia, as they needed a backup. Justin Fields ended up transferring to Ohio State, and he would end up accepting as he offered him a scholarship. He wouldn't see much playing time in 2019 as Georgia still had Jake Fromm. And then in 2020, he was named the backup to D'Wan Mathis, but he didn't play well, and Stetson Bennett ended up coming in to relieve him. But a few months later, JT Daniels would end up taking a starting job after he transferred from USC. Bennett played in 8 games in 2020 when he passed for over 1,179 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions with 2 rushing touchdowns. In 2021, he was coming into the season as a backup. However, he would make his first appearance and start of 2021 after JT Daniels went down with an oblique injury. And Bennett ended up taking this job and running with it. Even with JT Daniels being healthy, Coach Kirby Smart said, we're going to keep Stetson in. We're going to keep Unc in. He went 12-0 as a starter for Georgia, and he led them to the SEC Championship game. And in that game, Benson unraveled. 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. They got blown out by Alabama, and he broke down. People were telling Kirby Smart to go the Nick Saban route, bench Stetson Bennett for JT Daniels, kind of like what Nick Saban did when he benched Jalen Hurts in the national championship game for Tua. But Stetson would end up bouncing back in a big way. He knocked off Michigan in a huge blowout victory in a 34-11 game where he passed over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Meaning in the Natty, he would have a shot at redemption, taking on the Alabama Crimson Tide, the same team that made him unravel in the SEC Championship game. Bennett shined in this game. He passed the ball for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in a 33-18 victory, helping Georgia capture their first Natty since 1980. And coming into 2022, there was a lot of rumors that Bennett would be transferring. However, he announced that he would be returning for his 6th season at Georgia. And this is honestly light work for Georgia. They went 13-0 in the regular season. They blew out LSU in the SEC championship game. Barely, and I mean barely, beat Ohio State in the Peach Bowl. And they absolutely destroyed TCU in the national championship game. Bennett was also a finalist for the Heisman Trophy Award, and he finished 4th in voting. Bennett, though, wouldn't be a high-round pick like any of these guys, and he'll be selected in the 4th round with the 128th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. And this is a college football redemption story, so we don't really care what he did in the NFL, really, honestly. But it is important to note out, he still hasn't played a single game in the regular season yet, and he even was arrested in Texas for public intoxication after he was apparently banging on doors at 6 in the morning. While his college football career was definitely great, he definitely had a redemption story. His football career in the NFL probably won't reach those heights. But good thing this is a redemption story with college football, not what he did in his NFL career. For Baker Mayfield, redemption might need to be his middle name or even first name at this point, Redemption Mayfield, because he has had to do this so many times. Baker Mayfield was a 3-star recruit coming out of the class of 2013. Despite the fact he passed for over 600 yards, 6-7 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, his only offers came from Washington State, New Mexico State, and Florida Atlantic. Now, he could have just committed to one of these schools and said, you know what, I'm going to take what I got. But instead, he took another route. He decided to walk on at Texas Tech. See, Baker Mayfield actually originally wanted to go to TCU. However, they didn't offer him a scholarship. Baker Mayfield's dad was also heavily involved in his football career. Mayfield said, I could have easily gone to a place like Florida Atlantic, but my dad pushed me to realize that my dream was to play somewhere big. Baker Mayfield was originally going to be named the backup behind Michael Brewer. However, following a back injury, Baker Mayfield became the first true walk-on freshman quarterback to start an FBS season opener. And in his first start against SMU, he passed the ball for over 400 yards and 43 touchdowns. Things for the most part were looking good for Baker Mayfield. However, after a knee injury, he ended up losing his job to Davis Webb. And altogether, he passed the ball for over 2,315 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Despite not playing horribly in 2013, Mayfield announced that he would be entering the portal and leaving Texas Tech. And apparently, this was because that Texas Tech never offered him a scholarship. At the time, Texas Tech head coach Cliff Kingsbury would deny this too. In February 2014, Bob Stoops confirmed that Baker Mayfield would be walking on for Oklahoma. However, due to the rules at the time, Baker Mayfield was not eligible to play until 2015. But because of this, the Baker Mayfield rule was made. This allows student athletes, particularly walk-ons, to transfer to another school within the same conference without losing a year of eligibility, meaning they would immediately be allowed to play the following season. Mayfield had 3 outstanding years with the Sooners in 2015, 2016, and 2017. In 2017 would be by far his best year with ease, as he passed the ball for over 4,627 yards, 43 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And he would end up being named the Heisman Trophy winner in 2017 and receiving 732 first-place votes. That translated to about 86 possible points, and that's the 3rd highest in Heisman history. He is also the first and only walk-on player to this point to ever win the Heisman Trophy award. Mayfield would end up being a first-round pick by the Browns in 2018, and most people probably know how this goes. Pretty good rookie year, pretty mid sophomore season, pretty good 3rd season, a very, very bad 4th season, and then he would end up getting traded to the Panthers, and they ended up cutting him. He went to the Rams, had a few good games there, but he ended up leaving there too, and he ended up signing with the Buccaneers on a 1-year prove-it deal, and let's just say he took it and ran with it. He led the Buccaneers to a 9-8 record, over 4,000 yards passing, 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and a playoff victory over the Eagles in the wildcard round. He came back in 2024, led them to a 10-7 record, passed the ball for over 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. So plenty of roadblocks to go around for Baker Mayfield. First off, he wasn't even offered a scholarship to his dream school. Secondly, when he walked on at Texas Tech, he had a pretty good year, only to be not guaranteed a scholarship. He wasn't even given one, like I said. Then when he transferred to Oklahoma, he wasn't even allowed to play until the following season after. Then when he got to the NFL, he had a few issues that were out of his control, and then they traded him away to take a quarterback who is completely worse than him now. Went to the Panthers, ended up getting benched and cut there, went to the Rams, was never really going to be a long-term thing there, and then he went to the Buccaneers, and look what he's doing now. Like I said, make redemption this man's first name. And I saved the best one for last. Joe Burrow was a 4-star recruit coming into the class of 2015, and he would end up committing to Ohio State. He would be a backup for his first 2 years in college football, and in his third year, he got tired of it. Dwayne Haskins would be named the starter, and Joe Burrow simply said, "I didn't come here to sit on the bench for 4 years. I know I'm a pretty good quarterback. I want to play somewhere else." So, in 2018, he announced that he would be transferring to LSU. 2018 season with LSU, we don't really care about that. It's his 2019 season we care about. 15-0, going undefeated, passing for over 5,671 yards and 60 touchdowns. That record was intact for nearly a decade, held by Cole Brennan with 58 until Joe Burrow broke it. He will also set an FBS record for 65 total touchdowns, which he is currently tied with Bailey Zappi. His 5,671 total passing yards is 4th all time, tied with Case Keenum. And his passer rating of 202 was also a record at the time. Heisman Trophy winner, led LSU to the Natty, first overall pick in 2020, one of the greatest college football quarterbacks of all time, and a pretty good NFL quarterback in my opinion, easily top 3. But Joe Burrow, I gotta call you out on something. You said you were a pretty good quarterback, and that was a lie. You were pretty elite. That's a better term. He said it straight up. He didn't come here to sit on the bench for 4 years, and he wanted to play somewhere else. He did that, and he probably didn't write back to Ohio State. I know I said Burrow was going to be the last one, but we may be wrong on that. We'll just briefly discuss Cam Newton. Briefly. Cam Newton, 4-star recruit, class of 2007, was named a backup behind great college football quarterback, one of the greatest of all time, Tim Tebow. Was probably going to be the starter, but then he was arrested on felony charges of burglary, larceny, and obstruction of justice after he allegedly stole a student's laptop. Okay, maybe not allegedly, because he stole the laptop and threw it out the window, and they found it, and he didn't do a good job at hiding it. Simple as that. He ended up transferring to Blinn College to redeem himself. That was a community college, and he ended up getting an offer from Auburn, and he took it. And he went 14-0 at Auburn in his only season there, and led him to the national championship game, where they of course won it. And the rest is history. Selected first overall by the Carolina Panthers in the 2011 NFL Draft. 2015 won league MVP after he passed over 3,837 yards, 35 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, and also 10 touchdowns on the ground. So a total of 45 touchdowns in total. For these players, they proved you can have a really rough start and have some roadblocks, but it doesn't matter. It's just about how you finish. Some of these guys were arrested. Some of these guys went through injuries. Some of these guys just flat out sucked until they bounced back. But once again, it's not about how you start. It's about how you finish. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon for future football content. And follow me on all my social medias down below in the description. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.